crawl before I walk, and now I do the 1-2 step. I heard the spirit and it said the groove, yeah. That's why I do my own shuffle, tapping feet, clapping hands. If you could talk, you could sing. If you could walk, you could dance. Spirit told me bless the track with the vocals, and I come around your city rocking with the locals. Fading out, got my eyes closed. I think the Lord talking to me, gotta get up all in my zone. Candle gazing after doing Kundalini. I wrote it in my journal, trying to find the true meaning. It ain't gonna happen overnight, I really ain't stressing. I'ma get the blessing. I don't need Google directions, I just follow spirit. I think I start to hear it. The elders talk about alignment, I just start to get near it. Walk along the path, with it without a clue. When the spirit says do, I make it do what it do. Come on.
Do when the spirit says do.
Oh yeah.
You got to do.
Y'all know what it's like when the spirit says do. I mean, you just gotta do what it do. I know right now with some spirit talking to you inside and it's telling you to do something, and whatever that is, go with it. Alright? Spirit says do. Spirit says do. Spirit says do, and you know what? I'ma do what I do. You go ahead and do what you do, and that's how we gonna do what we do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, baby. Spirit says do. Oh yeah.
We come from the fire, living in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water. Go back to the water, turn the world around.
We come from the mountain, living on the mountain. Go back to the mountain, turn the world around.
Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Do you know
No, man.
who I am?
You don't know.
Do I know
Where you from?
who you are?
Irie.
See we one another clearly. Do we know who we are?
Yes.
Do you know who I am?
No.
Do I know who you are?
I wish.
See we one another clearly. Do we know who we are?
What?
Do you know who I am?
Yes.
Do I know who you are?
Where?
See we one another clearly. Do we know who we are? Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Water make the river wash the mountain. Fire make the
mountain.
sunlight turn the world around.
What?
Heart is of the river, body is the mountain,
is the
spirit is
mountain,
the
I'm the
sunlight, turn the
mountain.
world around. We are of the spirit, truly of the spirit. Only can the spirit turn the world around. Whoa, so is life. 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 Whoa, so is life.
Reminding us that what we do today or what we fail to do will be felt by those who come after us.
Good morning. I'm Sharon Davis, your worship associate this morning. March is Women's History Month, and it got me thinking about my own history. When I was growing up, women were taught not to call attention to their intellectual abilities. When I was in third grade and we were asked what we would like to be when we grew up, my announcement that I wanted to be a scientist was met with laughter. Everyone knew that girls grew up to be mothers and wives and possibly teachers or nurses. A girl could get applauded for being good at softball, but not so good that she might threaten the boys. Being pretty was the main way that girls seemed to be appreciated in my hometown. But as a gangly, awkward teenager with braces and glasses, I could not compete by being physically attractive. It was not until I was in graduate school that I began to appreciate my own intellectual abilities. I had an amazing talent for synthesizing information into a coherent paper with thoughtful, well-written explanations and arguments. But even then, it seemed unseemly to brag or draw attention to myself. One of my professors made sure I did not get too uppity by dismissing the significance of a paper I wrote about the importance of women in the history of political philosophy. Eventually, I got into the health field as a director of the Cancer Information Service, funded by the National Cancer Institute. There, I had the heady experience of working together with a group of smart, talented women who appreciated each other's abilities and challenged each other to improve. I feel like we helped a lot of people and made an impact on the quality of services we provided. And now, as a paid consultant, I have the pleasure of writing up the results of some studies of a different group and getting them accepted for publication in peer-reviewed journals. What would our world be like if we always encouraged and appreciated each other? What could we accomplish if we allowed ourselves to shine? Please join me in reciting these words, which call us together as a community and with Unitarian Universalists all across the globe. We light this chalice to remind ourselves to treat all people kindly, because we are all one family, to take good care of the earth, because it is our home, to live with goodness and love, because that is how we will become the best people we can be.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome on this remarkably soggy day. And welcome to Mission Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Gail Tupper, and I'm a member of your board. We are so glad you've joined us this morning, both in person and nice and warm and dry at home. Unitarian Universalism is a radically inclusive, open-minded, and open-hearted faith. We are people who are coming at truth from different paths. We use chat in Zoom or on our book near the welcome table to share joys and concerns, personal milestones of importance, which will be read aloud in the service. Maybe you're here for the first time. We've been reaching out and asking people to bring their friends because we think the world, especially now, needs some friendly places to gather and find encouragement and hope. We have social hour after the service where we get to visit with one another in breakout rooms or on the patio. The worship host will give you more information about this immediately after the service. And then, of course, today there is another meeting after the service also. I will shortly put a link into our weekly newsletter in chat so that you can see the events coming up on our website. We encourage you to join anything that speaks to you. We also put our welcome email, welcome@mpuuc.org, to request a newsletter or other information be sent out to you. Now, I have some great new information to call to your attention, also known as announcements. So listen up. We have updated our COVID information thanks to our very hardworking COVID task force recommendations. And we specifically want to thank Deanna Alm, Eric Ryan, and Steve Walcave for all of the work they have done over these COVID years to help us be together safely. Yay, everyone. We now encourage people to be masked inside. We have masks available back at the welcome table, so please help yourself if you need them. The end of the mask requirement does not mean the end of COVID-19, which will remain present in our community. We are allowing attendees to decide which tools to use to keep themselves and others as healthy as possible. More information is available on the bulletin board to your left, my right, and in This Week on the Peak. Have you met Ariel, our new religious education coordinator, yet? Yay! Well, we have a perfect opportunity for you if you haven't met her yet. Next Thursday, March 16th, will be an all-ages potluck and game night. This will be down the hill a little bit in Ackerman 7-8 from 6 to 8 p.m. for food, fun, and fellowship. Please bring a dish to share. Homemade or store-bought items are equally welcome. You're also welcome to bring a game you like to play. We'll have a few different games suitable for people of all ages. This week, there is no need to RSVP, but we may ask for that in the future. The featured game this week is, get this, Taco, Cat, Goat, Cheese, Pizza. Come and find out. So feel free to look up how to play it and come ready to jump in for a round. Or contact our religious education coordinator, Ariel, with any questions you may have. Finally, for those in person, please remember to silence your electronic devices. And remember, if you hear something in this morning's service that inspires you or makes you laugh or brings you hope, please share it. We want to start a wave of love and justice with every gathering. And let's end by asking everyone in Zoomlandia and everyone here in Cole Hall to wave to each other and feel the joy of being together in one large beloved community. Welcome and thank you to our dear members and friends near and far.
Hello, UU fam. I'm going to sing a song with you called Shine on Me. It's an amazing spiritual that anybody can sing. And in these days when the things that we're dealing with, the feeling separate and all of that, and things seem so hard, this is one of those songs that you just throw your head back, put it in your medicine kit. All you have to do is ask. And here's how it goes. Shine on me, oh shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me, oh shine on me, yes shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. Lift me up, oh, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up, oh, lift me up. Yes, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up. Oh, hold me close. Yes, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse hold me close. Yes, hold me close. Oh, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse, please hold me close. Oh, shine on me, shine on me. Yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. Oh, shine on me. Yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me.
How can you not love Melanie DeMore? It's a story that has been a deeply personal story. I find it a very theological story. It's an ancient creation story that describes a time when everything in the universe came together and became one. Stars and planets came together. People, even ideas and hopes and love, all felt the call to join in together. And as every last piece in the universe fell into place, an object began to take shape. The object that formed by everything coming together was a clay pot. It was magnificent. It was powerful and beautiful, and it shone all over the universe. It was so amazing that some who tell this story even refer to that clay pot as God. Now, nothing, not even evil or chaos swirling in the universe, could break those pieces apart once they had come together. And in the end, it wasn't anything bad from the outside that was able to break the pot. It was something good from the inside. Something that had been growing as those pieces came together, and as everything came together, it was light and love and energy which just began to emanate forth from the clay pot. And such goodness had grown so immense and powerful that it could not be contained any longer. And so the clay pot began to tremble, trying to hold it in, and it began to shake, and then soon cracks formed and light started to stream out across the universe. And in one huge explosion, the clay pot burst into an infinite number of pieces that went hurtling out throughout space. They even transcended into time, into the past and into the future. Everything that came to be, every person, every gender, every insect, every animal, every plant, every stone, every speck of dust throughout history received just a tiny piece of that clay pot. And though that single piece existed alone inside them, each thing in existence that had that piece could feel a deeper sense of connection, that it was part of something larger than itself. So that each thing in existence longed then to fit together, to reassemble, to come back in connection with all the other pieces around it. It is said, when all the things in the universe finally find the harmony that we have been looking for, that all the pieces come back into place, the original clay pot will again reappear. When that day comes, they say, we will experience the second coming, the day that Abraham and Jesus and Rama and Zeus and Buddha and Muhammad and Sophia and all the gods that have ever existed and have been worshipped, they will come down and show us the way. The interesting irony is that when that day comes and we all find the harmony to fit together, we won't need any of them. And that's a story worth remembering.
Good morning, everyone. As Reverend Greg mentioned last week, there is exciting news coming from the choir. I'll get to that in just a minute. But first, here is a brief, very brief, recap of the choir's history. We started the choir at Mission Peak just a few years after our founding. It consisted of a half-dozen members, with Reverend Ben Myers, our first minister, directing it. Since then, we have had a number of volunteer choir directors, including Peggy Rahman, Joanne Schreiner, Pat Rogers, and most recently, Shauna Pickett-Gordon. When Pat left for Washington State, we faced a crisis and decided to hire Mission Peak's first paid choir director. Unfortunately, the two people who expressed interest at the time found the position too small and low-paying to be worth applying for. So Shauna volunteered to direct the choir for a few months, which has now lasted over 8 years. Shauna's long tenure is partly because she fell in love with our choir and because she appreciates many aspects of Mission Peak. Also, budget crises and COVID-19 put a hold on the search process for many years. Meanwhile, Shauna has been tirelessly working to improve the choir with the goal of attracting a choir director at least as good as she is. And now that work has paid off. Yay! So, I'm very pleased and excited to introduce Vaughn Bringhurst, our new choir director. He just accepted yesterday. Here is a screenshot. I hope, if it got in. If it didn't, then there's no screenshot, of Vaughn, who appeared in last week's anthem, Off to the Corner, if you were wondering who one of the new people was there. Yeah, okay, so Vaughn currently teaches voice and beginning piano at the Community School of Music and Art in Mountain View. He is a countertenor and sings with a 9-man a cappella choir, and is a paid soprano section leader with a large church choir. Yes, countertenors can sing soprano. Vaughn has a Bachelor of Science in Voice and a Master of Music in Vocal Performance. So, how did he get here? Well, I mentioned to Vaughn, who is my voice teacher, that we were looking for a choir director. To my surprise, he expressed interest. A subset of the music committee interviewed him and were very impressed. A week ago, Wednesday, he conducted a choir rehearsal over Zoom and did a fine job. Here are some comments from the choir. I was very impressed with Vaughn. Quote, I was very impressed with Vaughn. He seemed to be a good match for our group. I liked the way he rehearsed by sections and then had us all sing. Another one, I liked Vaughn. He has a nice demeanor and came across as not only knowledgeable, but having good teaching skills as well. And the third, everyone gave very positive comments, by the way, but hire him at a good sustainable rate so he stays. So for the rest of the church year, Vaughn will keep his other church job, which means we continue virtual only, and the choir has to move its rehearsal night to Thursday. We plan to switch back to Wednesday next fall, but to some extent, that depends on the outcome of the Canvas. So, since this is Canvas Kickoff Sunday, this is another reminder of how critical a good Canvas is to the future of Mission Peak. We are only able to offer this minimal choir director position because of the great Canvas from last year. We need another good Canvas just to maintain what we have. We need another great Canvas to expand this at other programs next year and beyond. So yes, I am really pleased and excited that Mission Peak is taking this step. Vaughn is a fantastic musician, and with him, the music program and Mission Peak have new promise and potential. A good music program, like a good religious education program and social justice program, can attract new members and help spread our message of hope and love. Now we just need to have all of you pledge as generously as you can. Easy, right? Thank you.
A segue into this, we take up a collection on Sundays for the simple reason that our purpose in gathering is more than for ourselves. We want to make sure that our ministries that we need, including the choir, that infuse dignity, worth into our children, our youth, and our programs of learning and leadership are there. And we also want to expand our work in the larger world to put into place what is needed for others. We hope you will make a contribution toward these worthy causes by mailing your check to Mission Peak UU congregation at the address on the screen. You can also use the bill pay option in your online banking, or drop your check in the Mission Peak mail slot, or pay online with a credit or debit card. Thank you for supporting and sustaining the efforts of our members, friends, and staff. Your contributions make loving, learning, and leadership more possible.
Today's service is about what makes you shine. One of the things that helps us to shine when the world has taken a little luster off of our shine is one another, is simply just being seen and having someone see our hope, our disappointments, our need for a sense of companionship. If you have a joy or a concern that by sharing with this caring community might bring some hope or healing or resilience, we invite you, if you are with us online, to put something in the chat, or if you are here in person, to write something in the book. And we will share it aloud and create that clay pot among us so that we are all one community helping one another to thrive. If you would like to light or drop a stone during the music that plays, we invite you to come up and do that. If you have a joy or sorrow that is more personal than sharing it online publicly, then please feel free to call me or Reverend Barbara, and we would love to have a conversation.
Every single second there are 4 babies born, bursting into life in the blink of an eye. Each one with a million memories they'll form, times of feeling low and times of feeling high. The first glimpse of a rainbow against the sky of blue, the first time feeling lonely, not knowing what to do. The first wish on a shooting star to make a dream come true. First time feeling broken hearted, the turn to something new. That's me, that's you, that's what we do. We ride the waves, just hope they'll carry us through. We live, we laugh, we love, and we cry. And then one day, every single second there are 2 lives mourned, dropping out of this world in the blink of an eye. Each one with a million memories they'd formed, times of feeling low and times of feeling high. Had glimpses of a rainbow against the sky of blue, had times of feeling lonely, not knowing what to do. They wished upon a shooting star, make a dream come true. They cried out from a broken heart and turned to something new. That's me, that's you, that's what we do. We ride the waves, just hope they'll carry us through. We live, we laugh, we love, and we cry. And then one day we die. Countless different stories about how we came to be. We got different ways of loving, different sounds that we speak, different troubles, different blessings, different ways that we're treated. But one thing we share, everyone, everywhere, is a search for some meaning as we're held in suspense, dreaming and seeking, just trying to make sense. Oh, that's me, that's you, that's what we do. We ride the waves, just hope they'll carry us through. We live, we laugh, we love, and we cry. And then one day we die. And throughout it all, we shine.
That was recording artist James Underberg, who gave us permission to play his song. These are the joys and concerns that are alive in our heart today. There's a joy from so many present today, especially anyone who can smell the soup cooking. about all of the many people who have come together to make this Canvas process so celebrative and such a wonderful thing. It is bringing us together, and it is making us better together. There is a missing joy in here I don't see anywhere. So I will just say it. On Thursday, our wonderful president, Suzette Takei, successfully defended her orals and is now Dr. Suzette Takei. We have a great joy from the music program in the hiring of Von Brinkhurst, and I really want to lift up and thank David Lefcourt, as well as Joanne Schreiner, for helping to create the team that interviewed, and the entire choir who participated in the practicum. Everybody is super excited about his gifts and just the way that he interacts and encourages people and helps them to shine. Also super excited about Ariel Smith-Iyer, who had a practice potluck this past Wednesday, which was huge and really successful. So now we're going to have the real, I guess, potluck this Thursday, which also happens to be my half birthday. So I will be bringing a half a cake to celebrate. Let's see. We are certainly glad for everybody who is dry today. And we hope that extends the world over, especially those people for whom weather can be a life-threatening condition. We're also very happy to see today Melissa Holmes with us, who has survived her dramatic skiing accident and is actually moving around rather well, right? All well and healed? Oh, well, probably the end of skiing for this season anyway. For these joys and concerns, we hold one another in our hearts. We encourage one another to open their minds, open their hearts, open their arms, and open their doors, that more love will be present and that we are all encouraging one another to shine. Please join me in the spirit of this reading. It's a reading that's a little bit different than what's announced in your order of service. It's one of my favorite readings is by Aaliyah Kemmler, Reverend Aaliyah Kemmler, who is the minister of a small congregation back suburb of Boston. This reading is called "The Church Where Everything Goes Wrong." 6 weeks into the church year, I have realized that I am the minister of a church where things usually go wrong. This morning, the copy machine jams repeatedly. The bulletin describing the order of worship has been copied with the second page first and also upside down. No one has remembered to turn on the lights in the sanctuary before the service, so it is dark because it is raining outside. The microphone is buzzing and lets out a painful, high-pitched squeal which makes everyone wince. We have just started the service when someone runs up with a bunch of flowers for the altar, just as someone else runs in with the silk arrangements that we keep on the mornings when no one brings real flowers. There is laughter as the two flower bearers meet at the altar. They decide on the real flowers, and then things settle down for a moment. And then a baby starts crying, which sets off another baby crying. And I try to speak over the crying as best I can as the fathers hustle them down the aisle and try to distract them in the backpack. Usually, I love watching the tall, gentle fathers bounce their babies in the backpacks at the rear of the sanctuary, but today I am annoyed because I just want it to be quiet and holy and lovely, and things are definitely not shaping up that way. The woman who is helping worship gets up and instead of giving the announcements, introduces the candle lighting time, which comes later in the service, and people jump out and call, "Not yet, no!" More laughter. The organist starts playing the wrong hymn, and a couple of choir members yell over the din for him to stop. A few minutes later, during a period of prayerful silence, he accidentally falls onto the keyboard, causing the organ to emit a horrible, gassy noise. Shrieks and snorts of laughter immerse, and then all pretense for Sunday morning decorum is finally lost. And something inside me, some furious, bossy desire to have my worship service go according to my plan, finally slides free, and I can laugh with everyone else. This will be the first of many times that I laugh at Sunday morning details gone awry. It is also the first of many times that I imagine that God is watching, looking up or down or over or out at us from wherever it is that God sits on Sunday mornings, slightly amazed and maybe at a loss for words because we, God's people, are so funny and wonderful and odd all at the same time. In moments like these, I imagine God as a sturdy woman with her hands on her hips, or perhaps a rabbi pulling on his long white beard. And I imagine God shaking his or her head saying, "What in the world are they doing over there? Is this what they call church? What are they thinking?" But I also imagine God who is touched and maybe a little honored by our efforts, however halting, to worship and give praise to the experience of being alive. I imagine a God who is moved by our attempts to care for one another and to name the things that we do to care as holy. There is a real warmth in this congregation that is new to me since I have let go. A simple friendliness that shines through our fumblings and all of our failures. It is a love that makes the ragged edges smooth. I have always wanted to believe, really believe, that our mistakes aren't the most important parts about us. I have always wanted to believe that kindness and compassion matter more than anything. And I sense that I can learn all of this here.
The ceiling is high to let your soul rise up to the all of us who gather in friendship, gather in love, to gild it in gold, gild it in rust, for heaven below, heaven above.
For those of you who think you might recognize that voice, that is Peter Mayer, who was the singer and author of Blue Boat Home. It wasn't evil or chaos that broke the clay pot. In the end, it was something good that broke it open from the inside. It was the light and the energy and the love within that needed to break out because it had something to do. When something of great imagination and possibility finally realizes its true potential or purpose and grows so strong, nothing in the universe can keep it contained. It's like a million sparks becoming a single stream of light. Have any of you ever seen something like that or felt it in your own life? Felt drawn to something really, really bright and wanted to be part of that? If you felt that, then you have probably felt close to what the people of Harriman, Tennessee felt in the late 1890s when they attended Grace Universalist Church. Grace Universalist Church was the clay pot of the Southeast at a time when most of the light in that area had gone out. The Southeast struggled for a time at the end of the 19th century. The country had glimpsed the westward expansion, and many entrepreneurs uprooted their lives and their families to head out to strike gold or to have new land. And what they left behind felt a little chaotic. But then there was grace, which was imagination in a sea of confusion and doubt. Historians say that attendance at Grace Universalist Church on a Sunday morning outnumbered the population of the town. The mayor and the sheriff were members at Grace. The town's founding families were members. The mayors and sheriffs of founding families in other towns were members at Grace. It's not that there weren't other churches in that part of Tennessee. There were lots of churches, fancy churches, famous churches, churches with well-known charismatic preachers, but there was no gathered community anywhere like Grace. And as much as you might like to think that the reason that such a church drew people was because of some dynamic, powerful minister, it wasn't. In fact, in all the notes that people took and the letters that they wrote about Grace, one of the hardest pieces of information to find is the name of any of Grace's pastors. They were there, to be certain. They just weren't what made Grace what it was, which is to say, a place on fire, because it was a place where people recognized the spark in one another. In my second year in ministry, when I was still pretty unsure of my own light and my own audacity to call myself minister and to believe my light could influence anything outside of my own household, and even that was questionable, much less being devoutly independent, much less trying to influence a devoutly independently minded group of people toward anything resembling cooperation. It happened. That Damascus moment that changed my thinking and my heart. I had been called to a very small church, probably right around the same size as this church. Not much differences, really. We just held my installation a few months before, and it was an amazing celebration where I'd asked Meg Barnhouse to come sing. She did, and she was amazing. By the way, Meg Barnhouse, if you don't know her, is a UU minister who's recently retired from the pastorate in Austin, Texas. But at the time, she was just a few hours up the road from me in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Meg had a regular radio program on NPR called Bubba Free Radio. And she'd also written a couple books, one of which was called Revenge of the Karma Fairies. And then the other one was called, did I actually just say that out loud in my out loud voice? So after she came and sang at my installation, I wanted to repay the favor, so I told her that I'd come up and preach for her and give her a Sunday off. So we arranged a date, and as the date approached, I called her ahead of time and asked, well, what should I preach on? She smiled, that kind of smile that you can actually hear through the phone. And she said something that I'll never forget. She said, "Hun, you just preach about whatever makes you shine." Isn't that nice? My heart melted when I heard that, because Meg was the kind of person who you felt could see into your soul, and every time she did, she delighted in what she saw. And because of her delight, you felt brighter, you felt larger, you felt stronger. It made you realize that you didn't need to hide whatever light you had under a bushel, afraid that it wasn't real. You all probably know someone like that, right? Someone who maybe when you were young could see that spark, could bring it out in you, someone for whom you shine. The one who every time it was recognized, you would shine a little bit brighter and made you sigh in relief or doubt that you didn't have to keep hiding it. And then after a little while of being with them, maybe your feet would come back down to earth and you'd sigh, and then you'd say something like I did on the phone to Meg that day. No, really, Meg, what would you like me to preach on? There is a reading that I am sure that you are familiar with. It has stayed with me in a powerful way. It's from Marianne Williamson, from her 1992 book called A Return to Love. She says this: "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small doesn't serve the world. We are all meant to shine as children shine. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others." End quote. Marianne Williamson's message was powerfully transformational, especially to those affected by the HIV/AIDS pandemic and the millions of gay men dying who had always been taught that they were being punished by God for loving who they loved. Her quote was for them. As she later went on to work with women who struggled with the message that they were only as valuable as their ability to please the men in their lives. That organization that she started now trains and encourages women to run for public office. She later started the Peace Alliance, which worked and is still working to establish a Department of Peace, as opposed to the Department of War that we had for so many years, now euphemistically renamed as the Department of Defense. Williamson's work and her quotes were on my mind this past week as I thought about this sermon and our work together in this community to try and bring one another together to shine without hesitation, without shame, in a world that could really use some shine right now. This week, the midweek discussion group got together to help me explore the idea, and we talked a little bit about how the pilot light that we are born with and how we each try and keep alive in this blustery world is a fragile thing. We explored the many people who came into our lives who either really encouraged us and helped our light grow, or who responded with maybe just criticism or judgment or dismissiveness until we began to doubt even our own light. We all talked a little bit of having both of those kinds of people in our lives, and we spoke of learning to endure or survive the critical voices and how to recognize and then bring forth those favorable ones. But we also took note of those people who helped us came alive, where after some time in their company we felt buoyant, hopeful, loving. We noted that we all tend to resist the critical people and try and follow or emulate the latter. I heard from the group what I knew to be true. Whenever I've been able to recognize my own light, nothing could keep me from wanting to shine. But until it felt recognized, nothing could pry me out of the darkness or my smallness. 25 years ago, when I went up to Spartanburg after Meg told me to preach on what makes me shine, the sermon I ended up trying to write for Meg and the congregation was based on what she had said about living from what makes us shine. But as I was writing the sermon, I had a Freudian or spell check moment. I began to write out on my computer, I smiled from the inside out, but when I read it back, my computer had written, I smiled from the insight out. And it dawned on me that it wasn't a mistake, but rather a revelation, that Damascus moment. When we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. That's what grace did for people. It reminded them of what was possible in their lives and what was needed in the world. And it taught them to lean into their light. It was one of those rare places that truly possessed the power to change people. The kind of place you'd walk into good and walk out wanting to be great, and heaven bent on using every bit of your goodness to shine a light on the dark around you. Grace unlocked the person you wanted to be from the inside out. For years, Grace Universalist was on fire, and it was bound and determined to become to change everything in its midst. One of the main issues that it dealt with was temperance. And today we think of temperance as a punitive agenda by puritanical believers that led to prohibition in the 1920s. But in the 1900s, early 1900s, temperance was actually very progressive. In those times, it was common for husbands to drink all the rent money and beat their wives and children for being hungry. At that time, wives had no recourse of protest. They couldn't testify in court. They couldn't seek divorce. They couldn't make a property claim. Temperance was actually one of the early forebear programs for alcoholism, domestic violence, children's welfare, and women's rights before all those causes had names. It was a movement that talked of justice and of fairness and of love and good news for everyone. It praised to God who promised it, a church that practiced it, and people who made it real. The fire coming from Grace was so bright and far-reaching, word got up to Boston, denominational headquarters, where one of our Universalist forebears named Killen Shin gave up his prosperous conventional Boston church to become superintendent of all Southeast Universalist churches, mostly so that he could be part of Grace Universalist. For 10 years, Shin was part of Grace and carried that light from Grace to all of the neighboring churches. He started 20 other churches in that area, including the church that I first received my call to in Atlanta. Now, I mention all of this for a couple reasons. First, Mission Peak is a place that we come to come alive. We surround ourselves with people who are like us. And by that, I don't mean that we are all alike, because we are all pretty different in very important ways. But I mean, we are all clay pot people. We recognize the spark in one another, and we recognize our responsibility to fan the flames and to keep the pilot light on until we all shine. We do that partly because we are people who see the world around us, and we know the darkness. We know the hurt and the meanness in the world, and we know the light that is needed. We know that it's love, not fear, hope, not hurt, that is needed, and that we have a responsibility for helping it come alive in everyone. But it's hard. The world, especially if you are in the nasty habit of reading the news, can be scary. So I'm super excited to share the amazing news of these two new people who have come into our community. Ariel Smith-Iyer, our religious education coordinator, who has an amazing sense of the possibility and really is present with every person that she comes across. And Vaughn Bringhurst, our new choir director, who through encouragement and openness allow you to sing the kinds of things that you didn't know you could sing before. I will tell you that both of them are incredibly good hires, really particularly good at their jobs, but the reason that they are just what we need is because they have that special, hard-to-teach ability to see the light in people and to bring them to the level of their ability to shine. To be perfectly honest, though, the real reason why I wanted to talk to you about grace is this. In 1925, approximately 60 years after it began, Grace Universalist was sold outright to the Christmas Lumber Company. The once mighty church, renowned in the region, closed its doors and became a mere footnote in religious history. I doubt if the mayor or sheriffs or the city's founders attended the sale, because they had certainly stopped attending the church. There aren't any notes in any of the journals that explain why, no description in any of the church or city archives, no historical record. There's no clear reason anywhere for what caused Grace Universalist to fail. All we know is that the fire, which was once such a bright beacon on the southern landscape, burned out, and with it, the social gospel that lifted people out of their ordinary thinking into extraordinary living. We don't know why the fire at Grace went out, but we do know that the conditions in the Southeast during the 1920s after it closed didn't stop needing grace in East Tennessee. And East Tennessee didn't stop needing grace in the people of the state, because within a few years of its closing came the Scopes monkey trial, just 40 miles away from Harriman. And it became, 5 years after that, the epicenter of the Ku Klux Klan at the height of his power. In his second book, author and UU minister Robert Fulgham pondered on a news story he'd read about a small town fire. When the fire department was summoned, they found smoke pouring forth from the apartment window. The firemen broke into the apartment and found a smoldering bed with a man sound asleep on it. After rescuing the man and dousing the fire, the obvious question was asked, "What happened?" The man, thinking he was being accused of something, responded, "I don't know. It was on fire when I laid down on it." Most of us, if we're honest, look at a church in the same way that man purported to look for a bed. We choose one that's on fire, even though we ourselves don't always want to be transformed. We don't want to be consumed in the heat and the light. We'd rather preserve our lives just the way it is. One of my mentors was a minister by the name of Bucky McKeeman. He said something I'll never forget. People fall out of church for the same reason they fall out of bed, because they fall asleep too close to the place where they got in. Remember, it's not about the fire around us that makes a church powerful. It's about the church's ability to instill the fire within us, the light and the love that we each bring to one another. We are clay pot people. We come together because we believe that our mistakes, our doubts, our fears are not the most important parts of us. It is our light and our kindness and our compassion that matter most, that make it so that we can't wait to see one another. I sense that when I am with you in worship, and when I am with the people in the midweek discussion group, and when I talk to Ariel and Vaughn, and when I stand beside you and look out at the world, every one of you, every day, whether you realize it or not, has something amazing and bright inside you, some light and some love that has a great purpose and wants to be connected with something larger. What we do for each other is important, not only to each other, but to the world that depends on us. We are better together and always finding ways to help one another shine. May it be so. Amen.
Shine on me, oh shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me, oh shine on me, yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. Lift me up, oh, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up, oh, lift me up. Yes, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up. Oh, hold me close. Yes, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse hold me close. Yes, hold me close. So hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse please hold me close. Oh, shine on me, yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me, oh, shine on me, yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love.
Please join me in reciting these words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Please take one hand on your hearts, reach out to the world around you, and know there is something in you that was born to shine. We are clay pot people. We belong together. We are trying to create something great, and that when we do, some light will emerge from us that is irresistible to the rest of the world. Let our light shine and let it brighten the world around us. And may we go forth knowing we are better together. Amen.